Alright, so I got all this stuff from the back torn out so that I can access the shock towers. So right now I got it jacked up just so the tires are off the ground. No jack stands yet because it's going back down. I have to take the wheels off, pop that center cap out of the wheel, and then I can break loose the axle nut once I put it on the ground, and then I can put a socket on it, break it loose, and then jack it back up, and then we can take the wheels off, and I can take the trailing arms off and install the new bushings. So now if you look here, you can see the little keyed section on the axle with the nut smashed in. So all I need to do now is pop that thing out, and then I can break that off. Alright, so got it broken loose. This one was done properly, just one hit and then they were good. But if you look on the other side, let me show you. This one, they made it a point to like ram it home, so it was like really in there. But pretty much the technique is you're not gonna like put the bar on there and just like one smooth movement break it loose. You have to like bounce on it like I showed you, because usually people use an impact to get these off. So it's the actual like impacting motion that gets it off and past that keyway. But where is it? My impact is only 1/4 inch drive one, so it's not gonna take off a bolt that big. So you have to have like a 1/2 inch drive impact for that to work. So just the bouncing on the breaker bar works out for that. So now that I have them broken loose, I can jack up the car again, and now we're ready to tear into the project a little bit more. In order to access the bolt that's on the back side of the trailing arm, I need to remove that subframe mount. So I'm gonna do that right now. Alright guys, so I got the bracket off, and now I took this, I like the ABS sensor and something else, I don't know what that is yet, but took that off so that I can get access to the bolt on the back side of the trailing arm. Shot both of them with PB Blaster, and now I'm just like slowly breaking that loose, and I'm gonna take that bolt out, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so a little update for you guys. I got the nut off the back side of the trailing arm. I left the bolt in place, and I now have, let's see, taken the bolt out of the lower shock mount. So the shock's just hanging now. I'm pretty much just working away at all the stuff that's connected to the trailing arm, which is pretty much everything. But I gotta take the caliper off, gotta take this bolt out, the upper control arm bolt, and the other lower control arm bolt down there. Let me just show you this way. Right there, and right there, and then caliper, and it should come off. But right now I'm going to go inside and take off the 2 bolts for the shock and get that out of the way. Alright, so it's just those 2 bolts, and then the shock comes out. I actually had a pretty good shock in there. I mean, none of this stuff was bad, just, you know, but it's an Excel KYB, so that's actually a pretty good shock. I think just the backs are KYB. I think the fronts are some, just, I don't know, just some other kind. But I don't think they're KYB, the backs are KYB. So I think the next step I'm gonna do is take off the caliper and get that kind of out of the way. So, got the caliper off, and I tied it off to the subframe up there. But when I was trying to disconnect that, oh, it's so dark in here. Sorry. So I was trying to disconnect the brake line from this mount, and then I realized that there was no cut out through that thing, so this whole bracket has to come off. So there's one bolt right there, there's an ABS sensor bolt, there's this bolt right there, and then there's one holding this bracket on. I have to take all those off to disconnect the brake system from the subframe, and then I could kind of just push everything out of the way. So I'm going to do that now. I got the rest of everything disconnected, the upper control arm and both of the lower control arms. Whoops. Both of the lower control arms are disconnected, and I have that bolt backed out as far as it'll go, but we'll see if it comes out. But yeah, I just need to pull this out now. I had to take this bracket off that was up there because that bolt wouldn't clear the bushing, so it was keeping this in. So I had to take that off, and then the whole thing came out. But the e-brake right here is what that line is for, is still connected. And I can't see a way to disconnect it easily. So I think if I take these 4 bolts out, I think that connects to the actual like wheel bearing like hub assembly. I should be able to just take the actual arm itself and leave the rotor, drum, and the wheel bearing still here while I work on the bushings on this arm. That'll make it easier to deal with too. So the arm's separated pretty easy. I was right, it was just those 4 bolts, and then I stuck a pry bar in between the arm and right here and then popped it off. So now I'm going to remove the bushings like I did with the upper control arms, and then I'm going to parts wash this and get some paint on it and then put the new bushings in. Alright, so take a look here. Got both bushings out. It was a lot easier now that I know the technique, but I degreased this and I'm just letting it dry right now before I paint it. But I'm going to paint that whole thing, then press the new bushings in. Now my job over here is now to remove the rest of this stuff. So this upper control arm and then both of these lower control arms I need to remove. Put the sway bar bushings in. And then I think that's good. And then of course reassembly, putting all the new stuff in. But yeah, that's all we gotta do left. So I'm just gonna start taking some of this other stuff out. All I need to do to take these out is this bolt in the back right here, and that bolt in the back right there, and then that bolt right there. And those will come out, and then I can put the new stuff in. Alright guys, so I ended the video there or ended that last part last night because this bolt right there, it's unscrewed the nut, but this is the camber bolt, or yeah, camber, so it's the adjustable cam bolt, and it's seized into the inner sleeve of the bushing, so you can see it rotates with the arm. So to get that off, I couldn't get it off last night, so I just shot it with some PB Blaster and let it sit overnight, and then this morning before I went to work I shot it with PB Blaster again. So it's been soaking in PB Blaster for probably 15 hours maybe. So I'm gonna hit it with the, I looked up how to get this done, and I seen one guy who just put an impact on the bolt side and just went back and forth, forward, reverse, forward, reverse, forward, reverse. It's not moving, but is just vibrating the rust loose, and then more PB blaster, and then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I'm gonna try that and see if that works. That worked. Alright, so here I got all the old parts laid out with the new parts. I think this one's called the toe adjustment or whatever, but this is the new part that replaces it, and actually it's supposed to go like that. So that's the new part, and it's got this turnbuckle here to adjust for camber toe, stuff like that, instead of just that cam bolt that was on the end. And then here's the other lower control arm next to the old one. You can see they're much beefier and way more adjustable, because those aren't adjustable at all. And I told you previously that this new upper control arm was smaller than this one. You can see, let's put them close, the height difference. So Outbacks have this height because the bump stop is in the same location as a Legacy, but since it's higher, you don't want the wheels to hit the wheel well, so they made the upper control arms different so that it hits bump stops sooner. So let me show you. So where is it? This is the bump stop right here. So when the upper control arm swings up, it's like that. So if I were to lower it with the stock Outback arms, it would be like sitting right on the bump stop, and it would hit the bump stop all the time. So that's one of the things that a lot of people forget, and they'll just trim the bump stop, but I don't like doing that. So I like doing things the right way. So new upper control arm with the polyurethane bushings. So there's the old shock with the new coilover. Those parts were just things I had laying around. And then the trailing arm, it was a little like just surface rusty, so I kind of brushed it off, and I put some rust converter paint on it. And then I put the two new bushings in, the other one's down there. But those went in pretty easy. So all we got to do now is put everything back. I wanted to point out one more thing, is that stock rear and this one is like a 2-inch difference, and this is maxed out, like, well, almost maxed out, but we'll see how it sits once it's installed in the car. And then so one other thing I need to do is on the new coilover, I have this dampening adjustment on the top. Now when you look back here, you can see that it's kind of covered by that trim. So I think what I'm gonna do is just kind of Dremel out like a little thing where I can stick my finger in there and turn the knob and adjust it. I think I don't know if I'll do that now or after it's installed. I might install it and just see what it looks like, and then decide where I want to cut it and stuff. This little drawing that I made right there is what I'm going to cut. This is with the floor in place, so if I pull this back, you can see how much I have to remove. But like I can feel, if I need to make adjustments, I'd have to like take all this stuff out to do it. So I want it to be somewhat easily accessible, and the knob doesn't go all the way up to here. So I think what it's gonna be, I'm probably gonna have to take more off, but we'll start with this. But I'll probably only be able to fit one finger in there, and I'll have to like spin it with one finger. But we'll try it out. I want to get this done before I continue assembling anything else underneath, because I might have to buy some extensions if worst comes to worst. So here's the final product. I just kind of tunneled it out, got the sanding drum, kind of hit it one last time, so it's not gonna look too bad. Let's see what it looks like with the seat up. So that's what it's gonna look like, just a little hole right there, and then I can stick my finger in it and turn the knob however many clicks I want for adjustment. But let's show you what it looks like. This piece up. So that's the adjustment right there, and you can see the little knob sticking up. So that's all I had to do. I think that'll work for now. Might get some extensions later, but this will be good for now. Alright, so I got this bracket mounted up, those 2 bolts right there and right there, and then there's a bolt on the back right there. There. So, got that bracket mounted back up, which holds this, and I had to put the bolt for the trailing arm in first, because when you try to pull it out, it hits the body, so you gotta have that bolt in there first. But that's installed now. All I gotta do is lift this guy up and attach all the control arms in those 3 spots. Alright, so I stopped filming last night, but I got everything back together. So there's the control arms, it's installed. Let me go over here. Let's see. There's the coilover. So everything's in now and back together. But this rear lower control arm right there, that joint, the inner metal sleeve was too big to fit in the arm, so I had to pop it out and sand it down so that it would fit. But yeah, I stopped filming because I was having a hard time holding everything and trying to bolt stuff together. So, but it pretty much went together the same way that it came apart. And you could see the height off the ground from that to that is barely off the ground. And then also the wheel gap at sag versus the stock. So it's gonna be a lot lower now and a lot firmer. I did put it on the ground, but it was probably like 9 o'clock at night. And this side was like kind of like sagging down and stuff. But let me get a shot. So yeah, you can see that the old suspension's like 3 inches lower sagging than the new stuff. So that's a pretty good sign so far. But yeah, I'm going to start working on this side, and then probably the next time I'll see you, it will be when I'm starting to tear apart the front, which shouldn't be too hard, knock on wood.